Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of people are really interested in, and that's sleep.
Hmm.
And specifically, how sleep in your 40s could be impacting your brain health later in life. So
Yeah.
we've got two really cool articles that we're going to be digging into today, one from the New York Post and the other from Neurology. And both of them just came out this week on October 23rd. And they're
Ah,
both talking about this new study. And it's really got me thinking, like, could all those late nights be catching up to us in ways we didn't even really think about?
it's funny you should say that because what really caught my eye with this study was just how many people they looked at. Nearly 600 people they followed for 15 years, starting when they were in their 40s. So, that kind of long-term data is
Yeah,
super valuable when we're talking about something as complicated as, brain health.
yeah, absolutely. And the finding of the study is kind of crazy. It suggests that poor sleep in your 40s could be linked to a faster brain aging.
Mm.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's maybe unpack what brain age actually means.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you can
Yeah,
suddenly feel older. So in this case, brain age is really a measure of like brain volume and function. And it's often determined through brain scans. So you can kind of think of it this way, like as we age naturally, our brains do shrink a little bit.
yeah.
But this study suggests that poor sleep might actually speed up that process, leading to a brain that appears older than it actually is, chronologically speaking, based on these measures.
Okay, so it's not about wrinkles on the brain then. It's
Okay.
more like if our brains are like houses, poor sleep could be causing them to settle and sag faster than they should be.
I love that
Right.
analogy. Yeah, and the implications of that are significant because accelerated brain aging is associated with a
Right.
higher risk of things like cognitive decline and conditions like dementia.
Right. And they didn't just look at people with severe insomnia, right? The articles mentioned that they looked at like 6 different common sleep characteristics.
Ah, right, they considered short sleep duration, poor sleep quality, difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, early morning awakenings, and daytime sleepiness. And what's really interesting is that they found that even having like 2 or 3 of these sleep
Oh,
issues
wow.
was linked to faster brain aging.
So it's not just the extremes that we need to worry about. Like even those nights where you're tossing and turning or waking up feeling groggy could be adding up over time.
Exactly. And this is where the science gets really interesting because there are a few theories about why poor sleep might have this impact on brain aging.
Okay, tell me more. I'm all ears.
So one prominent theory focuses on the glymphatic system. It's basically like a cleaning crew in the brain that's most active when we sleep. And what it does is it flushes out all those waste products that build up during the day. So poor sleep may hinder this process, and that could potentially lead to inflammation and damage over time.
So if our brains aren't getting a good cleaning every night, it's like letting the garbage pile up. And eventually that's going to impact the structure and function of the house itself.
Another interesting avenue of research looks at hormones, because sleep disruption can really mess with our hormonal balance, including hormones that are really crucial for memory and learning.
This is all making me want to prioritize my sleep even more.
Yeah.
But before I go and set a million alarms and buy blackout curtains, are there any limitations to the study that we should keep in mind?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's important to remember that this study, while it is very robust, it really just shows a correlation, not necessarily direct causation. So more research is definitely needed to figure out exactly what's going on there.
Right. And science is all about building on existing knowledge, right? It's not about getting like a definitive answer. It's about asking the right questions and kind of continually refining our understanding as we go.
Totally. And I think another limitation to keep in mind is that they really just focused on people in their 40s. And so, while these findings are super fascinating, I think more research would need to be done to see if the same connections hold true for other age groups.
Yeah, like what if the effects are even more pronounced if the poor sleep starts earlier in life?
Yeah.
Or is there like a certain age range where the impact is like way worse or something?
Yeah, exactly. Those are all questions that future research could look into. But even with those limitations, I think this study really highlights something that's super important, which is that sleep is a really powerful factor in our overall health.
Yeah.
It deserves just as much attention as we give to things like diet and exercise.
Yeah, it's so true. It's really easy to kind of just think of sleep as this thing that we just have to do. But, this research is really emphasizing that it's an active process. It's really crucial for our brains and our bodies to function properly.
And it's empowering to know that we have some control over it, right? We're not just passive bystanders. And actually, The articles that we're looking at today, they highlight a bunch of practical tips for improving sleep quality. And knowing what we know now about the potential long-term implications, these tips feel even more important.
Okay, so let's get into it. One of the most basic tips is just sticking to a regular sleep schedule, even on the weekends.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds so simple, but it can actually make a huge difference.
It's like you're training your body's internal clock. That consistency really helps regulate your natural sleep-wake cycle, and it just makes it easier to fall asleep and wake up feeling refreshed.
And creating a relaxing bedtime routine can also help a lot. Whether it's like taking a warm bath or reading a book or listening to some calming music, it's all about signaling to your body and mind that it's time to wind down.
Right. It's like creating that separation between the busyness of the day and the peacefulness of sleep. And as tempting as it can be to scroll through social media or catch up on emails before bed, that blue light that comes from those devices can actually interfere with melatonin production, which is a hormone that really helps regulate sleep.
So is it a good rule of thumb to put those devices away at least an hour before bed?
Yeah, definitely. And we can't forget about our pre-sleep habits either. Cutting back on caffeine and alcohol before bed is super important. They might seem relaxing at first, but they can actually really disrupt your sleep later on in the night.
Okay, so what if you're really struggling to quiet your mind? Are there any techniques that you can use to help with that?
For sure. Things like deep breathing exercises or meditation can be incredibly helpful. They basically just calm your nervous system down and help prepare your body for sleep.
And then, of course, there's exercise. I always feel like I sleep so much better after a good workout.
Yeah, regular physical activity can definitely improve sleep quality, but it is important to try not to exercise too close to bedtime because it might actually make it harder to fall asleep.
It's all about balance, I guess. Enough exercise, but not too close to bedtime.
Exactly. You got to find what works for you. And it's not about being perfect every night. We all have those nights where sleep just doesn't come easy. The important thing is to make a conscious effort to prioritize it as much as possible.
I like that. Progress, not perfection. But what if you are trying really hard to sleep better and you just aren't seeing any changes? Like, what would you recommend then?
If you've been really trying for a couple weeks and still no luck, it's probably a good idea to talk to your doctor because sometimes sleep problems can be a sign of something else going on, some kind of medical condition. And if you can figure that out, it might help you sleep better.
Oh, that's a good point. It's easy to just focus on the lifestyle stuff, but sometimes it's something more than that.
Absolutely. Sleep is complicated. There are so many things that can affect it. And sometimes you just need a little help to get to the bottom of it.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm ready to go home and take a nap.
Me too.
But seriously, I think the biggest takeaway is that it's never too late to start prioritizing sleep, even if you're already in your 40s. Making even small changes to your routine can really make a big difference for your brain health in the long run.
It's like we've been given a sneak peek into the future, and we have the power to decide what we want that future to look like.
I love that.
Every night is a chance to invest in our future brain health.
So let's wrap things up with a little challenge for our listeners. Now that you know all about this connection between sleep and brain health, what's one thing you can change tonight to improve your sleep? Maybe set a regular bedtime. Put your phone away an hour before bed. Try a relaxation technique. Remember, little changes can lead to big results over time.
Yeah, and don't forget you're not alone in this. There are tons of resources out there. And if you're struggling, talking to your doctor is always a good place to start. Sweet dreams, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into sleep.